Good evening and welcome everybody. I hope you are well. Welcome to round 3 of WR season 21. We are here for the I was going to say Spanish Grand Prix. It's not the Spanish Grand Prix. It is, take away the I and the N. It's Spa. So we're very, very nearly there with that. Anyway, we are here for the Belgium Grand Prix and I'm joined by Joseph alongside me, who's still sideways at the moment. But ignore that. That's all fine. Welcome along. Let's have a look at the standings, because the standings are the best thing to look at as we speak. And Joseph, welcome along. Hope you are well. 2 rounds in. Championship leader is on 37 points, and his rival is Ryderdal on 33.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one this evening. Belgium, which is it's prone to a lot of racing, and so this evening I think we'll be seeing a lot of racing. Nothing like the last couple of rounds where it's been a little bit stagnant. There's been a couple of moments where the race has gone a little bit flat, but I think around Belgium it's going to be a little bit more exciting. Of course, those DRS zones up, down, or up the Kemmel Straight should help the action along, as well as, of course, Eau Rouge and Radion, which are generally two big overtaking zones, and with the way that these console drivers like to drive, I think we're in for an exciting evening.
I believe we are. I'm almost certain we are. It's one of the most historic circuits on the calendar, isn't it? You know, we've had some incredible races through history here. I think 98 we had that big, in real life F1, some big crashes along here. And, you know, even in WR history, some incredible moments at this wonderful track. I'm going to ask you early on your opinion on who you think is going to claim pole tonight, because it's not been a sure thing who's the fastest driver going, really, has it?
No, there's different benefits to different circuits for different drivers because of how tight it is in this field. Then all the different drivers, if they have, a moment in the sun, a moment where they have their favourite track, then they can absolutely fly away. And I think we've got a few drivers tonight who like Belgium, a few drivers who certainly do not. And so we should be in for maybe an exciting evening, maybe something where some drivers get thrown into the mix where you don't necessarily expect them. And I think we could have some new competitors rising to the fore.
So obviously, Matteo, the championship leader right now, the driver who won the championship last season is Volakongen. They're, not having the best of seasons so far. I mean, 2 rounds. It's harsh to say, I know, but he's already 27 points behind Matteo at the moment.
Yeah, and it's certainly not the start that Volakongen would have wanted to his championship defence. And of course, he will get his campaign underway. It's just when he gets his campaign underway, rather than if, that I think is the first debate that we can have. Of course, Matteo having a good start. He's 4 points ahead of Ryderdal and 10 ahead of Azim, who had a good round last time as well, where it felt like he absolutely dominated him at the very least. And then, the likes of Tony Rees, the likes of Epic Vale, who could find their way to the top.
Now, they've literally very early throwing themselves on track. We've still got a few cars there. Which one is that? Is that Tony Rees or is that Yassir? That's Yassir splitting, I think, the 2 RB or the Racing Bull cars very early on. So that means Tony is the driver that's going to be starting things off with. And you know what? I'm going to say Tony is the driver possibly for pole position tonight. You know what? He's just constantly showed good pace. Maybe up there for a championship charge as well, but has a little bit of a way to go to really catch Matteo at this moment in time. But I'm not sure where your thoughts are on that one.
Well, he's demonstrated his pace in the first couple of rounds of the season. I think he very much has the potential to fight at that top, and of course he prefers the PlayStation 2 any of the PC stuff that he was doing. So he's back in his comfortable environment. He's had a couple of rounds to settle in, but now is where he really needs to knuckle down and take those opportunities that present themselves.
Definitely does, and he's going to be the first driver to set a lap time tonight. A bit of yellow flag at the end of the lap for a few cars, just getting themselves ready and not ensuring that they don't get themselves caught up in any sort of traffic. A few gaps starting to form. Hopefully no penalties to come in tonight. But here comes Tony Riche. Then nice little Eau Rouge Radion and into the Kemmel Straight. It looked very flat out to start with, and their first sector time is a 30.2, which is probably a little bit average to, well, when it's a banker lap, it's hard to say if it's average or not. But I think it's the first start as the car slides as they come through turn 10.
Yeah, not the perfect start for him, and he's going to be hoping to get just that little bit better because there is a lot of opportunities for time, especially in this second sector. Everybody will be prepared for the first sector and the third sector where everything is pretty much flat out, but through the mid to lower speed corners of sector 2, that is where you really gain your edge in and around Belgium. And Tony Riche will come up to the second sector split time with a 1 minute 13.1. And of course it's purple at this point because he's the only driver to have set a time, and he will come around the final couple of corners through Blanchimont and up to the bus stop chicane, and will be the first driver to set a lap time, followed by the two McLarens, and I believe that's an Alpine splitting the two. But Tony Riche got out there pretty early, all things considered, in this qualifying session, and he will be the first one to set a lap time across the line. He will come power down out of the final corner, and it's going to be a 1 minute 40.721.
Here's Quantum then, the next driver to set a lap time. Can they do anything in comparison on their first lap of qualifying and across the line? It's a 140.6 to start things off for the McLaren driver. Yassir then, let's see what they can do. The other Kick Sauber, Samuel Barker just behind Tony Riche, and then Silo taking provisional pole for the time being. Here comes Yassir coming down the start-finish straight to set their lap time, and Yassir only manages P6. Lawrence then in 13th at the back of all this. So let's have a look at Nail as they are coming through Blanchimont now.
Yeah, they are heading through the final few corners, and Oscar going up to the top of the sheets. He's no longer Shizu Oscar. He is now SCI Oscar, which of course means that we're going to still refer to him as Shizu Oscar because SCI just doesn't really have the same ring to it. Francesco Largo to the top of the times with a 140.4. That's a strong lap, 2/10 ahead of anybody else in this field. And, Quantum is over 2/10 back off the podium, so that is very good lap time. Epic Vale, 140.8, finds himself in the mid-pack. Seems about par, 147, 148. And, Francesco Largo way below.
Yeah, Francesco Largo. We saw in round 1, wasn't it, in Australia, I want to say? Oh, my goodness me. Australia. It was Australia who took pole position there. And it's looking strong again, but it was the race strategy that cost Francesco Largo in the end, deciding to go for a two-stopper. But the pace kind of dissipated in Spain last week, but looks like it's back again tonight.
It does so far, but of course we still have 2 more runs, I'd imagine, in this qualifying session to go to decide whether that 144 is going to be enough. I don't think it will be. I think there will be time on the board. Few drivers with disappointing laps that they will not be happy with. The bottom 2, Lawrence and Volokongan, with lap times outside the 41s. Of course, Andrea and Misha down there too, but I think those 2 would be expecting to be down there in the first runs, but particularly for the 2 in 19th and 20th. There's a lot of margin for them to improve.
Another driver, I think, maybe really needs to improve their qualifying pace, because their race pace always seems up there and fighty, and that's Venom, the another Shizou Cedar Igniters driver, just currently languishing in 15th place right now.
Yeah, not great so far from them, and they'll be hoping to get that. Get it hooked up. They do have a 149, which is only a couple of tenths off of the top few, which is why I talk about so much the disparities between everybody in this division, and the fact that there is basically no disparities between everybody, because if he gains 0.3 of a second, he'll jump from 15th to, and if it's exactly 0.3 of a second, he'll jump from 15th to 5th. He'll gain 10 places. If he can gain just over 0.3 of a second, then he'll be challenging for the front row of the grid. So that is how incredibly tight this field is. And don't forget that some may well have been held up on their first runs, which is why they find themselves down there, and particularly why some of them find out or decide to find their way out of the pit lane very, very quickly. With just 10 minutes left in the session, you've got Carsey leading out the rest of the cars that are going to be coming out, and I'd imagine there's going to be quite a few of them, Quantum being the second one.
There we go. Chat, let us know who you think is going to be pole position tonight. We've still got 10 minutes left of this session to go. I'm going to stick with Tony. I've said that already. Currently P6, and like you've quite rightly mentioned as well, it's, we talk about, okay, Venom's in 15th place, he won't be happy. But you're right, he's not that far off the top at all, and the disparity between the drivers is quite small. But how about yourself? Who are you going to, I say back, who's your pick for pole position tonight?
Francesco Largo's obviously had a great start to the session, and he obviously has that qualifying pace. If this is his circuit, then I would not be surprised to be seeing him taking pole position this evening. Of course, Tony Riesch as well has that potential in the Kick Sauber, but well, of course, a lot of them have the potential. I think Francesco Largo is the man in prime position right now. Of course, he's on pole, but 2/10 gap to Oscar will give him a significant psychological advantage. But I love an underdog, so I'm going to back Oscar to snatch that pole position away.
Fair enough. You've already got one right this season, and that was Francesco Largo at Australia. So, probably, if you're a betting man, follow Joseph and not myself about who's going to be pole position. But, yep, here we go. Here comes Carsey to start their second lap with 9 minutes of the session remaining.
Yeah, Carsey in his debut in Tier 1, he was very excited to get to this level, and I think he feels a little bit out of his depth, but if he can adapt pretty quickly, then I think he'll feel a lot more comfortable, because it's all about that comfortability, because these, of course, Carsey being an example of the drivers that they all make a debut at Tier 1 at some point. His debut is this evening, and he feels a little bit like he's been thrown in the deep end, as it were, because he hasn't had the opportunity to race alongside a lot of them as much, as he's gained a whole 10th in that first sector, which is a very, very strong time to gain, especially with how close it is this evening. And yeah, he's going to keep going around, keep trying to perform to his peak performance, and I think we might be seeing the Alpine a little bit higher than he'd be expecting. He said just before going out that he just hopes somebody crashes out in qualifying so he won't be starting last. And at the moment, considering these runs, he's not actually starting on the back 2 rows of the grid. So that's already exceeding expectations. If he can improve on this lap, then he'll be exceeding expectations even further. It's
a good, solid lap time, but 0.001 behind Venom, which is a very, very good lap time. Nearly 3/10 quicker this time of asking. This could be close to throwing themselves up into a top 5 position right now.
It certainly could, and well, he could be on his way. The track has gotten a little bit better. The Red Bull getting out of the way pretty well. I was a little bit concerned about that one when I saw Carsey heading through the second sector with that Red Bull only a couple of corners up, but no, he's out of the way absolutely fine, and Carsey up to the line with a 1:40.602. That's going to put him on the front row for now, but with everybody else improving, I'm not sure how long that is going to last, but that is still an incredible lap time. Quantum will be the second driver to come up, but actually he's invalidated on that lap, so he will not be, and it'll be Tony Riesch to take us to the line.
We go then into the old bus stop chicane. What can the Kick Sauber driver do for the time being? Round the final corner, down the start-finish straight they go. It's a 1:40.631, just behind Carsey. So Carsey really has set a decent lap time right now.
Yeah, he's getting comfortable, I think, at least a little bit more comfortable than he was before, and that's exactly what you want to be seeing at this point in time if you are supporting Carsey, as I know there are a few in the chat, or a few at least watching along from the MSC side of things, as that's been a community I've been affiliated with just a couple of times, and not that long ago as well. Oscar was up in the first 2 sectors, but lost time around the final corner, and that means that he did not improve, and he's going to drop down now. Rajdal, Samuel Barker and Dirk finding their ways into the 1:40.5s.
No one able to stop Francesco Largo, though. Look at that. 2.5 quicker than Shazoo Dirk, as Epic Vale goes just into P11 for the time being. Misha across the line, slower than their original lap time, but Francesco Largo is just getting quicker and quicker and quicker.
He certainly is, and that is a scary sight for the rest of the field to have, as Francesco Largo just, as you say, gets quicker and quicker and quicker indeed. And 1:40.2 is a huge statement to make to the rest of the field. Silo up there with 1:40.4, but he's about a run behind Francesco Largo's lap times, and so he could be He could be on for a very, very good pole position today, Francesco Largo, and going to prove me wrong, as my prediction, Oscar, did not improve. He was minorly up in the first two sectors. He found his third sector, wasn't quite up to scratch, and a 140.658 finds him in 8th place, behind Tony Riccian on the same row as the Kick Sauber driver. Looking a little bit further down, Volakongan has improved, but once again, the Mercedes just struggling to find pace early on, and Matteo actually in the Williams, not too far ahead of him.
Yeah, Matteo there, 140.777. Not ideal for the championship leader, but from what I was gathering in the chat, there's been very little practice for the Williams driver tonight. So they're just riding the wave, but they've not really had, I don't want to say the need, they've been very much more interested in their race pace than the qualifying pace. They've been more, well, just faster over a race trim, I guess.
Yeah, and I think you'll get some drivers who are just a little bit like that, where they will practice for that race more than they'll practice for a situation like this, which is the situation we have at the moment, which is qualifying, which in somewhere like Belgium is not that important, but of course it could all come to blows at the end of this session. And I think we found out in the first, in last time especially, what happens if you get a good qualifying lap. We saw it from Azim, who ended up taking that pole position, ended up snatching victory from it, despite the fact that he is not necessarily the quickest car in this field.
No, I think it's just track dependent, which we spoke about briefly earlier on. Some drivers are just better than others at certain tracks. With 3 minutes 27 remaining, we've got Nail, the first driver to set a lap time. I think we had a bit of this last week, didn't we? Where drivers went a little bit too soon and got caught up in traffic in their last runs of qualifying.
Although they could have gone too late and got caught up in that same traffic, as that was absolute carnage around the final sector. But hopefully this week we're going to be able to avoid it, as Niall Gio is out on the circuit at the moment. I think he's going to be doing just a prep lap to get ready for his real lap, because if he is preparing for his real lap, then I think he's going to be absolutely done for when it comes to all the drivers coming out of the pits, as they are now. And it's going to be a congregation once again of everybody heading out onto the circuit. Absolute carnage, as it was last week. And it's a wider circuit, so they can get away with it a little bit more. But this train is still absolutely huge.
It certainly is. Everyone is just flooding. It's a gaggle of cars in certain areas of the track. You've got the two Kick Saubers together. You've got, down the Kemmel Straight itself, you've got at least 6 or 7 cars just clumped together. We've got still 2 cars in the pit lane, and that's Dirk and Misha, the two, Racing Bull, Red Bull sister cars, I suppose you could call it. But it looks like Nail, as well, starting to push. It's a track where, doing an installation lap might not necessarily be the best thing.
No, it's, you have to fuel quite a lot. It's gonna not really have an effect whether you fuel massively or under fuel, because at the end of the day, you're still gonna have just enough fuel for a run. So I think it's certainly an interesting decision if that is indeed what the Haas has gone for. And he's heading through the first sector now. Is this an improvement? It looks like he might actually be pushing on this lap, is Niall Gio. And I think he might have timed this one perfectly, where he doesn't get caught up in the train. He's just going to be able to avoid it. He's got a Red Bull and a V-carb for company, as he's improved by a 10th in the first sector.
It's a good start for the Haas driver then, Neil. Trying and, hoping to pull on the two, a Red Bull and a Racing Bull ahead of them on track. They might come a cropper in this tighter part of the sector. Hopefully the cars in front will realise and pull away, but through Pouon, they're just about to go now, and they could get caught up a little bit, but it looks like maybe the Red Bull's pulling to one side. It is indeed. But yeah, Nail Gullet got a lot to do to continue on, but let's see what the Sector 2 split time is going to be.
Enel Gullet up to the second sector split time, and it's going to be a 1:13.1, which is a 4/10 improvement, or pretty much a 4/10 improvement for the Hassers. He's only got a couple more corners to go until he reaches the line and sets his final time in this qualifying session. 30 seconds left on the clock. I think it's going to be tight actually for Misha, who's the driver who moved out of the way for Niall, but I think he's going to be absolutely fine. I'll scoot Niall up to the line, is going to get a lap time on the board. He was up by 4/10 in the first two sectors, and he moves up to 8th with a 1:40.633, just 0.02 of a Tony Reish.
Here comes the reigning champion then through Blanchimont and into the old bus stop chicane. Can Volakongan do anything to improve their qualifying woes this season? Only on 10 points. Looks like maybe cut too much of the curb and probably a little bit too much through the final two corners. It's up into P5, so not too bad. But probably would have been hoping for more because Tony is up 0.2 of a second as well.
Yeah, Tony up by 0.2 of a second. He might, or he looks like he will, be beating Volakongan and Samuel Barker, who are two of the three drivers to have finished. Yasasaki becomes the fourth. He moves up to 5th place. Tony Reish up to the front row with a 1:40.341. Instantly displaced by Ryderdal, who takes his place right back at the top of the field. Francesco Largo cannot improve on his 1:40.268. In fact, he only goes 1,000th slower with a 1:40.269. Armateo up to 4th place. Silo heading through the final sector. He was in 4th place, but he finds himself displaced and actually dropped down to 6th as Oscar improves up to 4th. So I've got that pole prediction wrong, but the Mercedes is on the second row of the grid for how much longer. We've still got Silo, Dirk, Carsey, Andrea and Misha up to set their lap times, and I believe that was a Venom up there with a 1:40.504. Up to the line then, Silo onto 3rd place on the grid. Where's Dirk going to go? He wasn't improving in the first two. Is he going to improve in the third? It's going to be a 1:40.472. He's in 7th.
Not ideal. Misha is up on their lap time as well, and possibly enough to displace themselves being off the bottom row of the grid. But there was a mistake through the final quarter, which unfortunately enabled them not to, as Nail is now going, just following through. But not everyone's day, but Francesco Largo showing just what exactly they are about at the moment. And that pace here tonight has been absolutely crucial with Ryder Dahl in 2nd place. In 3rd is Silo with Tony Reish in 4th. 5th to Oscar. Armateo in 6th. 7th to Dirk. 8th to Venom. Lawrence in 9th. And rounding up the top 10 is Brando, which we've actually not spoken about, and possibly his best qualifying performance of the season. Then we've got Yasir, Volakongan, Samuel Barker, Carsey. Great debut for themselves. Nail, Justin down in 16th place. Quantum in 17th. 18th to Epic Vale. Andrea and Misha rounding out the bottom of the positions tonight. Let's have a quick look at the standings, and obviously we know the qualifying positions, and Matteo won't be too happy with that, but Ryder Dahl right up the top again. Ryder Dahl, one of those drivers that is, especially in WR, not been a champion yet, but been there or thereabouts. Could this be their season?
Yeah, I think they get underrated quite a decent amount just because of the fact that they're the champion and they haven't quite had enough to take it up to the line. It always feels like they're around in 3rd or 4th or something along those lines. And this may well be the season where that consistency just pays off and they become the champion, as this appears to be one of the most inconsistent seasons that we have had in console tier 1, where just anybody could be a victor at any given round. And Francesco Largo looks to be setting his first on the board, or at least he looks to try.
2 pole positions to their name in 3 races, so that's a great stat for themselves. They just need to transfer it into race wins, don't they? And a nice little segue there. Who do you think is going to take the victory tonight?
I think the pace of Francesco Largo is very, very dangerous, so I think you can't really rule him out. But you know what? I committed to a prediction for him in qualifying. I'm going to go with Oscar winning the race. Okay,
so a double Oscar. I think that's the first time this season we both one of us has backed the driver that from pole position that you guessed. You know what? I don't know why. I'm going to go Dirk. I think tonight. I think the race in Spa, it always throws up something special and it looks quite cloudy out there. I'm not going to say it's going to rain, but because we don't know. But just imagine if there's a little bit of interchange in conditions, or the temperature of the track's just not how Francesco Largo liked it, because it was really sunny in qualifying. But chat, let us know who you think is going to take victory tonight. But let's talk about Kasi. First debut in console tier 1. Not bad at all, really, was it for them? They're still really close together with all the timings.
No, and I think he'll be pretty happy with that in terms of where he ended up in that qualifying session. As I said, he was expecting to be right down the bottom of the field. So to be in the lower mid-pack, he'll be absolutely delighted by that, and he'll try and capitalise in the race session that is going to be getting going very shortly. I think I'll back him for points today. I think he underestimates himself, and I think he is in for a very, very good chance of getting a good result here if there's any carnage up ahead. Especially, and I'm predicting a little bit of carnage. It's one of those feelings. I don't know why, but I think a little bit of carnage in the race. I know the controversy is bad, but sometimes you need that little bit, don't you? Just to make sure it's spicy. But I suppose you don't really need a track like Spa. It's spicy enough as it is. But from that point, we're just obviously waiting for the lights to hit out and the race to go. So we are going to go straight to the lobby and make sure we don't miss a start. But how do you think drivers are going to navigate turn 1? Because it's a heavy braking zone. Sit back and wait for everybody else, because if you try and make the jump too early, if you try and make those moves into the first corner, you'll find yourself actually in the incident. This is where I wouldn't want to be on pole position, because you're on the inside line for that first corner, and the 5 lights are coming on.
And here we go, away we go. They didn't hold for long at all. It looks like a poor start from Ryder Dahl as they head into turn 1. Nothing doing for the drivers behind, though. There is a little bit of battling between Tony Reich and Silo, which is going on. Tony, I think, has made the position stick as they head on through Eau Rouge and Radion. There's a, gaggle of cars side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion. My goodness me, is that Matteo and Oscar going side by side?
Well, of course it is. It's lap 1. So, of course, you're going to get some carnage, and we could be having side-by-side for the race lead. Francesco Largo on the inside line, Ryder Dahl on the outside, Tony Reich and Silo waiting to pounce on any mistakes from the top 2, but there aren't any, and they filter through. As I believe Lawrence has been involved in an incident which drops him down to the bottom of the field. Reich on the inside of Silo, and he defends that position. Matteo trying to get that inside line, but he can't quite pick it up on the next corner, and so he stays in behind Francesco Largo. He's trying to build up that gap now to Ryder Dahl. It's up to 0.5 of a second.
There's a massive gaggles of cars around Quantum and Justin as well. It's 2 by 2, and Justin throws it up the inside of the McLaren driver. It's Kasi holding on with Volokongan as well. That's some great racing from Kasi to get past the reigning champion. My goodness me, he's worried about all this, and he's made an incredible move up the inside there. The car in front, Samuel Barker, is missing a front left end plate, so there's definitely been something going on in this one. And towards back to the front, Francesco Largo holding station at the moment.
Yeah, Francesco Largo. He's built that gap up. It will come down with the DRS, but he's had a very, very good start to this race, and it allows for a little bit of... maybe a little bit more pressure put on Ryder Dahl by Tony Reich than pressure put on Largo, as there's contact between Dirk and Yasisaki, as I think Dirk just had a little bit of oversteer out of the first corner, and he pushed Yasisaki just that little bit, which means that the Kick Sauber almost drops out of the DRS, but not quite yet, as there must have been carnage on that first lap. 4 drivers into the pit lane.
There's a little bit more, and my goodness me, Samuel Barker is trying to stick out here. Let's see how they manage Eau Rouge Radion and into the Kemmel Straight. Surely going to be a sitting duck at some point through this. And there goes Dirk on Yassir, and is that Brando going through as well? This is going to be tight through. Oh goodness me, they're still side by side. Brando holding on for dear life, but I don't think they're going to get the move done.
No, not quite, and Ryder Dahl in the meantime got the move done on the race leader, Francesco Largo. So we have a new leader for the first time this race, and it is the Alpine. Speaking of Alpine, the other one has just gotten past Samuel Barker, moves back up into 11th place, and Kasi has had an incredible start to his race. Yeah,
up 3 positions, Misha's up 5 as well. As we go back to have a look at the tyre positions, Dirk on the set of hard compounded tyres. Is this well, as it's a go-to strategy, we'll have to wait and see. Samuel Barker being dispatched by Justin now. Justin's got a long way to go to get themselves back up to the front. And I wonder if Samuel Barker is going to fight with on-track teammate Quantum or whether they will let them on pass. But it looks very, very much of the case of fighting and holding on to the position for the time being.
Yes, Samuel Barker is fighting a lot here today. Whether it's benefiting him or not is another question as he drops down to 14th place, whereas he was 11th at the start of this lap, and he's actually dropped one on as well since the race start. Just behind them, Andrea and Misha were side by side into the final corner. Andrea had that outside line which switched to the inside for the bus stop chicane, and that allowed him to make that move stick, and he's only 8 tenths now behind Quantum, so he will stay in that DRS. So Samuel Barker actually must have had damage because he's into the pit lane. We've had 5 pitters on the first 2 laps, and so that's going to throw something into the mixer where these 5 are attempting what looks like it's going to be a massive undercut.
Yeah, let's see how they handle that one. Tony and Francesco Largo, trying to catch up with Ryderdal as they head down the Kemmel Straight and into the comms, and unable to make a move this time around. Ryderdal holding the position at the moment. Samuel Barker coming out of the pits just about at the same time as Volokongan. Let's have a look at this. Is there going to side-by-side action? There is. Here comes Epic Vale as well. Just sneaks through the McLaren, and here those two continue on, Epic Vale and Volokongan.
Yeah, Epic Vale and Volokongan will continue to fight for that P16 at the moment. All they'll work together just to try and catch up to the pack. They've got nothing really to lose at this point, 16th and 17th in the positions, and they're going to try and recover from this bad weekend so far, as they didn't qualify very well in the race. Certainly hasn't gone their way. Volokongan peaking at 12th place, and that's the highest of these two that ended up qualifying. Lawrence has dropped from 9th to last place. And he certainly will not be very happy with this one, especially because he's already out of the DRS of Gio, Barker, Volokongan and Epic Vale, that little pack. And so he has a little bit more work to do than the others.
Yeah, definitely needs to maybe use a little bit more ERS to get themselves into that. It looks like they are trying exactly that, though, with the medium-hard strategy for the majority of these guys. Would you be saying lap 9 for them to pit? Is that about the rough time to make sure you've got the optimal position for this one?
I think so. I think lap 9 is about right for when you pit, as Carsey is coming under pressure from Justin for that 11th place. Justin did pull alongside into the first couple of corners, but he wasn't able to make it stick and backed out as they headed up to 130R. But yeah, I think it's lap 9 is really where you want to go, unless any mistakes are made, because anything earlier you're going to have to manage your tyres, anything later and you've missed out on that window, because there's a big opportunity for you when you pit lap 8, lap 9, something along those lines. Lap 10 is viable as well, but any later is kind of a little bit too late. That, of course, accepts those on the hard. So at the moment it's Dirk and Misha in terms of the leading pack. So they're going to have to come in a little bit later. I think it still makes sense for them to go lap 13, 14, something along those lines. Either way, they're going to try and go for the alternate strategy. Whether it pays off or not is another question, as Volokongan and Epic Vale swap for P16.
Yeah, Justin getting past Carsey as well. Let's go back on board with the front runners. Francesco Largo hasn't been able to, well, have an answer to Ryderdal. Ryderdal may not have had the qualifying pace over his Ferrari counterpart right now, but all of a sudden Ryderdal in race pace is definitely looking like the driver to watch right now, and trying to pull away when they come through Blanchimont, builds that gap up to about 0.7 of a second as they head down the start, well, towards the start-finish straight to start lap 5 of 22.
So this is where the debate comes in about the setups that you can go for. So Ryderdal's clearly gone for a setup where the second sector he massively benefits. The first sector and the third sector he will be gained in with that DRS and with Francesco Largo's straight line speed. But if Ryderdal is able to pull out a gap in the second sector big enough to break that DRS, then that is an absolute game changer, and Largo is going to try and nullify that advantage as he's pushing as hard as he can to stay within that DRS. And well, he's going to get within 4 tenths to 3 tenths to 2. And Silo is even closer on the back of Tony Reich, and he's going to go for the move, for the podium position down that inside line. Gives Tony Reich just about enough space, but not on the second corner. There's contact between the two. Silo and Tony Reich crashing, not out, but certainly down.
That is kind of perfect action there, and I've gone off on board on them, and there could have been further incident as we go back to the leaders as Dirk now up into P6. My goodness me, huge. I don't want to say I told you that there was going to be carnage and a little bit of controversy, but it looks like we've had it today as Dirk trying to keep up with his Racing Bull teammate Venom just ahead. The two Shazoo Cedar Igniters drivers there as Francesco Largo pulling on. But my goodness me, whew, that is absolutely insane start to this one. And, well, let's have a look. What corner damage is on Tony's? That's no front wing at all. And Silo has come away unscathed.
Yeah, somehow scot-free. So that's very, very lucky for Silo. But that is pretty much race ruined as he's now back with his teammate Misha on a set of the hard compound tyres. 1.8 off, so I don't think either of them are going to catch up anytime soon. But for Tony Reich, that is a race absolutely ruined in one small moment. And that is why everybody focuses throughout the entire race. That's why you cannot let your foot off the gas at any point, because just if you're going for an overtake like that, you sort of have to know that it might go wrong. And in fact, that is the end of Tony Reich's participation in this Grand Prix. He decides to retire from the session and will not race anymore as Dirk makes his way through on Venom and is up into 5th place. So those hard compound tyres starting to work for him, and he, from nowhere pretty much, now has a sniff at a podium.
I went off with a whim to say Dirk was going to win this race, and all of a sudden, on a set of hards, into 5th place. A lot of work still to do, though, for the Shazoo Cedar Igniter driver, as Francesco Largo still hasn't been able to get past Ryder Dahl, and Matteo has found themselves into a podium position pretty much from nowhere, the championship leader. Where else can we go on board with Kasi still holding on, and Yasir Sake struggling to keep up with Venom for the battle for P6 there. A second between them, or just there or thereabout, but Epic Vale back past in front of Wollongong, and, well, I think through this one, eventually, we'll see the hard runners that have had to pit early for damage and everything drop away quite quickly.
I think we may well do, and this could completely swap this race on its head, because now Dirk is in a great position, and, well, he's on the slightly less preferred compound to start off with. Of course, only he and Misha began on it, but he will be going over to the mediums to finish off this race. And the harder the tyre that you want to be on at this point in time, as Yasir Saki has dropped out of the DRS on Venom on that last lap. And so that means that there is a split in the packs for the first time in this race, as Saki actually sends it into the first corner to try and stay within that DRS, and he is actually dropped out of the DRS even more as a result. He's dropped 3/10 because of that one corner in the first corner, and that means the top 6 are now a little pack of their own, and 7th down to 11th is its own separate pack.
Done a very much a Lando Norris and making mistakes through La Source as they head down the Kemmel Straight now, and Yasir Saki has been passed by Brando. Brando up into P7 now, and Kasi into the points, just nearly being broken by Justin. Kasi's got a lot of pressure on them right now, but in the points, which I don't think they would have been expecting at this one, and you quite rightly backed them for points, and there's still a chance for that tonight.
Yes, there is certainly a chance for Kasi to make it into the... Well, he's in the points at the moment, but for him to capitalise on that opportunity and get at least point, if not points, as, well, the Alpine... He's trying to stay within the DRS of everybody now. I think P7 is where he's going to peak, but Brando did make his way through on Yasir Saki, so he's going to be the latest to try and charge down the top 6.
Yeah, they will do as well. 1.3 seconds, though, still outside that DRS activation zone. Venom is also close to losing time to the teammate Dirk, nearly outside of that DRS window time. No one's jumping on the pit at the moment, but Dirk very close to Oscar. Dirk, oh, I say that, into the pits. Brando, Yasir, Quantum, all pitting.
Yes, and that is, well, it's a slight undercut, but not by too much, as, well, I think the main laps to pit are this lap, the next lap, and then the one after, so laps 8, 9 and 10. And, well, this is a slight undercut. They're going to gain a massive advantage from this, but it's whether they can hold on to those tyres. We've seen this year how important one lap on a set of tyres is, and it could be what defines a race. Brando, Yasasaki, Quantum and Silo and Andrea all out on a set of brand new hard compound tyres. This could come back to bite them at the end of the race when those on the mediums come in on the next lap or the one after. But I think for now they are going to gain a massive advantage, and most crucially, they're going to get that track position.
Certainly indeed. Here comes Epic Vale and Volakongan again as these two continue to swap positions since their early pit stops. They are 6 laps older tyres than Silo, Quantum just ahead. Andrea should be able to get through as well. And we've mentioned, I think, the last 2 weeks that tyre life, one lap can really... I mean, Spain, it was brutal there. One lap was enough to cause issues. We've had punctures in both of our races this season, haven't we? So, any pushing too far can cost you dearly.
Yeah, you don't want to push over the limit at all, as Brando is 11.6 off of the chasing pack. The chasing pack being Misha. He is about 14 seconds off of Kasi, who's the back of the lead pack, who's coming in. Ryderdal's in, Francesco Largo's in, Matteo's in, Dirk continues, of course he does, Oscar's in, Venom's in, and Justin and Kasi stay out. They're going to go to lap 10.
They're going one lap over. Well, maybe because they thought of the double stacking in the pit lane would affect them massively, because both their teammated drivers on the grid, Francesco Largo and Ryderdal, pitted that lap as well. But huge moment heading into the old bus stop chicane was Matteo throwing it up the inside of Oscar, and has actually got past Oscar. There's someone in the pit who was second. Where's Ryderdal? Oh, Ryderdal's up there in 5th place. Sorry, I lost Ryderdal from the menu there for a second. But Brando and Venom swapping positions.
It was just too quick for you as Brando and Venom are side by side. We've seen this one before, as Brando actually cuts the corner to avoid Venom, who was sliding out of the exit, and Brando, I think, using up one warning there to stay ahead of the V-carb. But yeah, the undercut not quite as powerful as expected, but still pretty powerful, because they've managed to make their way back into that DRS. And not only that, Brando has actually made his way into the chasing pack. He is 5th place in this train at the moment, as Silo and Quantum swap places for 12th place, which is, of course, it's going to be 8th in, well, when the top 4 come into the pits. And I'm expecting Kasi and Justin surely to come in this lap.
I think there might have been a bit of a lag issue on my side, because Quantum's car was just paused at the exit of turn 9, and then all of a sudden he dropped down to the bottom of the grid, and now he's back up to 12th. So I'm not 100% sure what's happened to the McLaren, but that happened. Into the pits, Kasi and Justin, the two hard runners from the start of the race. Dirk and Misha are still out fighting away. Francesco Largo trying to catch up with Ryderdal, but again, Ryderdal, after making that overtake, has seemed a little bit impervious right now.
Yeah, he looks impenetrable at the top of the field at the moment in that 3rd place. 6.5 off of Dirk and Misha as Kasi and Justin come out of the pit in 12th and 13th. Kasi ahead of Justin, but only just, so they are going to have to work together now to find their way back into the DRS of Silo, and then the DRS of everybody ahead. 1.4 seconds separating Silo and the pack, 3.1 separating Silo and Kasi. And down the Kemmel straight, here comes Justin, who makes his way through on Kasi. Volakongan just about clinging on to the DRS range, but I think once they get those tyres warmed up, that's not going to last long.
Definitely not, indeed. If you were Dirk or Misha, where would you pit? What time? What lap would you pit? How much pressure would you put those medium compound tyres on to get back into the track position? Well, obviously not track position, but into the possibilities of points in this race.
I think it's going to have to be. You're going to want to do about 8-9 laps on a set of medium tyres. So you're looking at something along the lines of lap 13, 14, something like that, to come into the pits to change those hards. But it's really how long you can make those hards last that affects it, because at the end of the race, regardless of what happens, you're going to have to be chasing, and you're going to be on a set of the medium compound tyres, unless you can stretch those hards so long that you're able to go into softs, but that is incredibly unlikely. So you'll be on a set of the mediums to the end of the race as Matteo makes his way past on Francesco Largo, but Francesco taking the position back around the bus stop chicane.
A little bit of contact between the two of them. I think Francesco Largo tried to go up the inside of Ryder Dahl, and Matteo tried to get on the racing line, and just a little bit of a argy-bargy, elbows out at the moment, but nothing too dangerous, and they go back racing again. Francesco Largo, though, again coming for Eau Rouge and Radion onto the Kemmel Straight, is, well, half a second behind Ryder Dahl, but is this this is the closest they've been down the Kemmel Straight. Is this the time that they make the move into the chicane? Nothing on this time of asking, but battling is still going strong, and Brando well up there into the battle for the podium today.
Yes, and Brando doing very, very well today to get the strategy right. Really, you have to do something different if you want to climb on F125, just because of the nature of the dirty air and the slipstream and the way it combines. So Brando doing something different. It has paid off, and he finds himself in at P5 in this pack, but with a very good opportunity of getting P4. I mean, Oscar's not been the quickest today, and Matteo, of course, right up there at the top as Francesco Largo picks up a huge kick of dust, or it might have even been Ryder Dahl. Somebody in the lead of this pack kicked up a huge bit of dust, but it did not hinder them in any way, shape or form, as Ryder Dahl continues to close in on Dirk and Misha up ahead. And I think for Misha it makes sense to come in next lap on lap 12. He might be going a little bit too long on a set of those medium compound tyres, but it's better than being swallowed up by the field.
I think Ryder Dahl would also want them to stay out and then use them as a blocker, maybe to Francesco Largo through that second sector, wouldn't they? And then pull away, and then home drive maybe for Ryder Dahl if that was to be the case. But right now we do have Dirk leading the way, yet to pit. Misha in second, yet to pit, but the rest of the field has pitted from Ryder Dahl onwards. We've lost Tony early on after an incident, I believe lap 6 with themselves, and Silo making a move into Lacombe's, and one of them lost the front wing, the other one managed to survive and continue on. But here they come down. Venom having a look at Brando into Lacombe's this lap, but nothing doing at the moment. Lap 12 of 22, and a little bit of a lull in proceedings right now.
Yeah, you expect that though on F125 when they just settle themselves into a rhythm as Volokongan loses the position to Andrea, who's the only driver actually in that backpack to have pitted later on. He wasn't happy with his pace either heading into the race. I don't think any of the drivers that I spoke to were happy with their pace heading into Belgium, but Andrea especially was feeling particularly nervous, and he's down in that 14th place at the moment. He's made his way through that little pack, but I don't think he's going to have enough to catch up to the cars ahead. The car ahead being Car C, who is on his own in a fight with Justin. A fight with Justin that looks like it's going to amount to P12 and not much more.
It's a shame there, but we get our first penalty of the evening, and that is Epic Vale. 3 seconds to them. Justin, like you quite rightly mentioned, 2.6 seconds behind Silo there. But both Justin and Kasi 2 laps younger on their tyres, as Ryder Dahl sticking behind Misha, and Misha into the pits this time of asking. And Brando has left the session, unfortunately, for the Aston Martin driver, and that's a little bit of gutting news for them. Ryder Dahl 8.2 seconds behind Dirk, who is yet to pit. We're probably going to see Dirk pit lap 15, maybe 14 for their one and only stop of the race, unless we get a safety car at some point. I think Ryder Dahl, Francesco Largo and Matteo could be the podium sitters tonight.
It's almost like you're trying to speak it into existence. We'll see whether that does happen. But of course, at the moment, it's not quite what it was. There's a lot of communication with online services going on, so I think there may be a little bit of desync coming in, which is going to affect this race quite significantly, as there's going to be 2 side-by-side moments near the bottom of the field. Not quite, actually, as Volokongan didn't quite have, or Epic Vale even didn't quite have enough to catch up to Samuel Barker, and Lawrence dropped a position to Misha, who came into the pits. Now Gio also into the pits for a set of the hards. He's going to take them to the end.
I think that's Nail's second pit stop as well. I think they probably would have preferred a second set of mediums on there, but depending on the tyre allocation chosen, may not have had that available. Francesco Largo then 0.6 of a second behind Ryder Dahl, the leader of this Grand Prix, who is 6.7 seconds behind the leader of the Grand Prix, which is Dirk. But don't forget, Dirk is yet to pit this race on 12-lap-old tyres. Do we see the Suzuki Igniter driver pit? We do, but Matteo flying up the inside. Dirk picks up a 10-second penalty for going into the pits. That's not ideal. Francesco Largo and Matteo squabbling away over P2. And there he goes. Francesco Largo hold on for the time being, but that might help Ryder Dahl.
Yeah, that has cost Dirk the race win. That is really cost Dirk the race win, and that is unfortunate for him, as he managed to make the hards to mediums work. But yeah, that's thrown everything out of the window for him, and now it's just about flying to try and make it to the end. He's going to have the opportunity on a set of the mediums, and the first overtake he's going to make is Brando, who maybe not, as he's back into the race. and Francesco Largo there. Well, Matteo might be a bit frustrated with not being given full room entering the going into Le Combs there, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll leave that to the stewards, but it was very, very close for Matteo losing a front wing there. I think, you know, a racing incident, these things are always happening, especially with what we've seen so far. But the battling between Francesco Largo and Matteo could be handing Ryder Dahl a little bit of an upper hand here. Yeah, got incredibly close between those two. But if they continue to fight, then it provides an opportunity for Ryder Dahl to push away. And Francesco Largo just soaking up that pressure from Matteo at the moment, not allowing the Williams any space, as you saw, heading into La Source. And, well, they continue on in position. Largo now 7/10 off the back of Ryder Dahl, and so maybe falling into the clutches of Matteo very soon. But Matteo might fall into the clutches of Oscar all by himself, and that is going to be a potentially developing story as they head into the bus stop chicane. All filtering through. Is Oscar going to get the exit on Matteo and therefore put the pressure on as they head up Eau Rouge and onto the Kemmel Straight? Potentially.
Here we go then, lap 15 of 22. Still plenty of racing action to behold tonight at round 3 of WOR Console Tier 1. As Matteo, we're following on board with at the moment. 7/10 of a second behind Francesco Largo in second place, and then who is another 7/10 of a second behind our leader, Ryder Dahl. My goodness me, Ryder Dahl starting to, turn the screw a little bit at the moment. Is this, well, showing their true pace as we see Silo and Yasuya Saki swapping position, and Silo's had a recovery drive at the moment.
Yeah, and Dirk making his way past Carsey as well, but he's got a lot to make up that 10-second penalty. He's going to try, though, of course he is. He's going to try and fight with everybody up ahead and hope that maybe a safety car comes out then. He can serve that penalty, come back out and assess with his softs, and then just run to the end, even if his strategy's been foiled by a mistake that he's made by himself. But yeah, Dirk continuing to try and close the gap as Niall Guillot makes his way past Volakonga, and I think that's going to be a battle that develops as Epic Vale past Lawrence as well. These 5 at the bottom, I think, or these 4 at least, with Guillot, Volakonga and Epic Vale and Lawrence, are just going to have a little bit of fun towards the end of the sessions. Carsey, I think he might have just cost himself points there with that 3-second penalty. Gutting for Carsey, who's driven a real good race so far. Here comes Matteo again, looking very hungry in an overtake opportunity into Francesco Largo. He's tried a few times into the bus stop chicane. He goes a little bit late, looks up the inside, nothing doing on this occasion, just making Francesco Largo aware that they're in for an opportunity for an overtake in that position, and making Francesco Largo just think about the driver behind instead of the driver in front. As I think maybe I have lost my co-commentator for a second. I'm not sure what has happened there. I am just about here. I've had a little lag spike and I've just disconnected from the session. So what is that? Is that 2 races in 3 or 2 in a row? I'm not sure. I think possibly 2 in a row, unfortunately. But nothing for Matteo at the moment through here. Are you able to get back into the lobby, or do you need an invite? I will most likely need an invite, unfortunately.
I will see what I can quickly do. Apologies for this. There's nothing major going... I say there's nothing major going on the screen. Let's hope there's nothing major going on the screen. And you should have a new invite for yourself there, as nothing happened majorly. It's fine. Francesco Largo still hunting down Ryder Dahl for the lead, and Matteo still trying to find a way past Francesco Largo. The top 5 battling away quite nicely right now.
Fortunately, I think I'm going to need another invite. But yeah, I mean, it looked like a good fight was developing at the top of the field, and it certainly is still developing as we continue on at the top of the field. And well, Matteo putting Francesco Largo under all that pressure is going to just spice it up at the end of this race.
Matteo looks very quick through Blanchimont. Very quick indeed. Defensive goes. Oh, he's going up the inside of Francesco Largo, but not close enough, as that is not not ideal between the two of them, because they're squabbling away. Lap 17 of 22, sorry. 6 laps of the race remaining. They're squabbling away, and it's allowing Ryder Dahl not to be touched too much by Francesco Largo. And you know what? I'm looking at Matteo there as Justin gets past Quantum, and he's possibly thinking, let me at Ryder Dahl. I can win this race.
Yeah, and they might have to work together in the late portion of this race. It might have to be the case that, well, Francesco Largo lets Matteo go, just because then he can have an opportunity, have a pop at Ryder Dahl, and then maybe Francesco Largo can find his way through as Lawrence retires in the pits. Unfortunately for him, he's going to be the second retirement of this race after Tony Reich was the first. But yeah, Ryder Dahl continuing to lead this race. He's 4 tenths ahead of Francesco Largo, who in himself is 5 tenths ahead of Matteo. So I think the little bit of pressure that the Williams was putting on is allowing, or making more specifically, Francesco Largo try and go for Ryder Dahl a little bit more aggressively.
Well, the top 5 are pulling away from Silo in 6th place. Silo has no answer to that at the moment. Dirk up into 8th place, looking to find a way past Yassir in 7th now. As we'll have a quick look at this one. Yassir slower through Stavolo, and this could be the moment for Dirk, obviously with that 10-second penalty through going into the pits. That could be through Blanchimont that we get a move for Dirk on Yassir. Look how close, look how much more pace that Racing Bull has to the outside, to the racing line, but not being given much room there by the Kicksauber.
Yeah, not quite that much room. And on the exit of the corner, Dirk and Yasusaki are side by side, but Dirk got the exit and manages to stay ahead. Not quite, though, in the DRS, I think, and he might have to push out of the first corner as Yasusaki just filters into 8th place and just has to deal with sitting in behind in that 8th place with Dirk up to 7th and ready to attack Silo. But, of course, that does not rule out the fact that there may be a potential opportunity for them to go for a move later, as it appears to be stagnant up the top, but what it really is the tension is building. They are waiting for an opportunity to strike.
Yeah, it's a big chess mind game, minefield, whatever you want to call it, at the top. Everyone trying to play 6 moves ahead when they've still got to play at the same time. Let's keep on board with Dirk as they're coming through this section of the track just behind Silo. Silo having an incident earlier on with Tony Reich, which is part of the reason why Tony is no longer in this Grand Prix. Lap 18 of 22. We're halfway through lap 18. So 4.5 laps remaining. It's, well, still looking like Ryder Dahl holding station at the moment. Oscar keeping up with them. Your pick for the race win is sitting 4th place, just outside the podium at the moment. But it's anyone's game in that top 5 really right now.
Yes, it's anybody's game, especially. I think it's a little bit off the pack for Oscar and Venom, but that does not rule out them coming back into this race at this point, because, of course, they're still within range. They just haven't demonstrated quite the outright pace that Francesco Largo and Matteo have had, as Epic Vale and Samuel Barker swap for 17th place. But with that DRS, I think the top 5 battle is scintillating as we head into the dying stages of this race. And Ryderdal, who's led this almost the whole way through, he's certainly had the pace and had the dominance at the top of the field. And he looks like he might be able to seal it there. He might have the chance. But Francesco Largo is the driver in prime position to pressure. Armateo in 3rd place as well. He will also have a chance. And Oscar and Venom sitting in behind, hoping that there's something that goes on between the top 3.
Here comes Dirk then on the racing Red Bull car, the Racing Bull on the Red Bull car. Dirk up into 6th place, obviously got that 10-second penalty, which will cost them big time. Towards the front then, let's have a look at this one. Ryderdal, Francesco Largo still battling away for the lead of this one. Dirk managing to pull away. Dirk will try and catch up with this group up here, but possibly leaving it a little too late as Nail and Samuel Barker swapping positions. Samuel Barker had that front wing damage at the beginning of the race and deciding that they will try and make it to the end of the Grand Prix on those set of hards, and that's going to be a tough ask, but they are towards the back. Well, they are at the back, unfortunately, now for them, as well, it's still kicking off at the moment with Andrea with a 3-second time penalty. It's been a good race for penalties so far.
It certainly has, and it's something for the mathematicians to work out, I think, towards the end of this race more than the commentators as to who's going to finish where. Luckily, most of the penalties seem to be outside of the points, apart from the huge one, Dirk, who is, well, at the moment, as it stands, he'll be dropping from 6th place all the way down to 12th, which will, of course, drop him out of the points, and that is certainly not an ideal scenario to find himself in. He's still on the faster tyres, but they're not going to be faster for that much longer. There is a crossover point, and it's about now where those mediums aren't going to be as quick as those hard compound tyres. And well, Justin making his way past Yasasaki. There is contact between the two, and well, Yasasaki just seemed like he may have been wheel hooking Justin a little bit just to try and stay alongside. He's not had the greatest day in terms of race pace, as well, he has gained 2 positions, but he's had to fight incredibly hard for them, and he's going to almost bump draft Justin down at the back straight and make the move around the outside, as Francesco Largo has made the move for the lead of the race in the meantime, and the Ferrari is now in prime position.
I'm glad I kept on board with Justin. Oh my goodness me, Quantum and Yassir's coming together from the exit of Lecombs, and my goodness me, there is a lot of incident there, and through, well, goes Justin, Yassir and Quantum coming together, but Francesco Largo, as you quite rightly mentioned, is into the lead of this Grand Prix. The first time they've had to really make a push on this one, as Samuel Parker picks up a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, now Ryderdal is on the back foot and looking to pressure Francesco Largo once again at the top of the field, as Justin, Yasasaki and Quantum a little bit over the edge for those 3, but they will come out the other end of it and hopefully continue to fight towards the end, although Justin and Yasasaki both out of the DRS, so it might filter down to a battle between just Yasasaki and Quantum. But of course the top 5 continue within the DRS range of each other, as they have remained all race long. But as was the case at the start of the race, not in the middle of the race, but as was the case at the start of the race, and now is the case with just the 2 laps to go, Francesco Largo leads.
Penultimate lap of this race. We have lost only 2 drivers in this race. We've got 5 drivers with penalty. Dirk with the largest of all, with a 10-second time penalty to their name, as they're trying to catch back up with their Racing Bull teammate Venom in P5. We've lost a driver. That is Samuel Barker out of this race at the start of Blanchimont. No safety car or anything, but here comes Ryderdal to the outside through Lecombs. Francesco Largo tried to go, well, maybe a little switch back onto the racing line, but the car, the Alpine car was far too quickly. Here comes Matteo. Nothing from Matteo was able to do, but Francesco Largo loses the lead of this Grand Prix. But if there's any time to actually you want to lose the Grand Prix, when you've got such a long straight as the Kemmel Straight, it's probably on the penultimate lap.
Then Francesco Largo is going to try and use everything to try and stay within range up until the Kemmel Straight, which is about 3.5 kilometres away, as it looks like it might be raining out on the circuit. So last gasp drama out there with just 2 laps to go. It's a bit slippery on that circuit, and as we know on F125, when it rains, it pours.
And I joked that it looked cloudy at the start of this, and now it's raining. I did not know, but this could be, well, our driver's going to find it too slick. We're surely not going to see anyone pit on the last lap for intermediate tyres, surely not. But Ryder Dahl is going to use everything in their skill locker to keep the lead of this Grand Prix. But Francesco Largo is going to do exactly the same to try and take the lead of this one back. Matteo waiting in the wings. Matteo hasn't been able to attack the Ferrari as much as they have done previously points in this race, but into the source, and it's a 7-second gap between Ryder Dahl and Francesco Largo on the final lap.
Yeah, Francesco Largo, poor traction out of the bus stop chicane, and that's going to cost him this race lead, if anything is, because he had to try and use everything just to try and remain within DRS range, but he does have that DRS, and it's the final time in this race that he's going to have a full DRS range, but crucially, he has no ERS left, so our Matteo is going to be on the inside line. Francesco Largo is not going to allow him any sort of room, but Matteo is going to force his way through anyway, and just try and make his way on through. He does so. It's not a repeat of the Silo and Reish incident from earlier. Our Matteo makes his way up into second place, and now he tries to defend and hold on to that position. Francesco Largo pretty much tailgating the Williams as they continue through, and this battle looks like it may well have won Ryder Dahl the race.
What a series of corner from these two, keeping it as well clean as they possibly can for it all. But the championship leader is going to come and probably, feel very confident through that, because they're going to come home in P2 as things stand. They're 1.4 seconds away. Carsi is back into the points. Is it going to be enough for Carsi to pick up points tonight? We'll have to wait and see on the back of all this. But Ryder Dahl leading the Grand Prix, coming through Blanchimont, just about to start Blanchimont now. And that's exactly what they want to do, to take the lead of this, or take the victory in this round 3 of WR Console Tier 1 Season 21. And Ryder, let's go on board with Ryder Dahl. Led the majority of this Grand Prix, done everything they can. They're in the car of the T-shirt that you're wearing. So that's a good point for that side. Making a little mistake at the exit, maybe because of the slippery weather. Matteo comes home in P2. Francesco Largo rounding out the podium positions. There's a little bit of squabbling between the Ferrari and the Red Bull as they try and come over the line. Justin and Dirk there. But a feel-good story of this race could be Carsi coming home in the points. Is it going to be enough? It is. Carsi's picking up points tonight.
Carsi points, yes, on debut in WOR, a very, very good performance. I know that 6 cars have retired from the session, but that is on paper, and off paper it was a little bit easier than that, as you've got Niall Gio and Volakongan crashing on the exit of the final corner, just to finish this race off and just to round it off with a terrible performance, with all things considered, from Volakongan at least, who we thought could take the opportunity and make his way up to the very top. But he's going to have to find some more pace at some point later in the season, maybe next round. But it's going to be Ryder Dahl who takes that victory home. Matteo in that second place after a last-ditch effort on Francesco Largo.
Let's hopefully have a look at the... Well, the drive of the day has been given to Justin. Justin did start further down the grid on that one, and I'll ask your opinion on driver of the day shortly. But Ryder Dahl taking victory in the Alpine, Matteo and Francesco Largo rounding out the podium positions. Then you had Oscar, Venom, Silo, Justin, Dirk, Brando and Carsi in the point scoring position. Then finishes for Misha, Andrea and Neil Gullett, with Volakongan finishing in 14th place. And non-finishers to Yassir, Quantum, Epic Vale, Samuel Barker, Lawrence and Tony Reish there. Whew. That was what an epic end of the Grand Prix. The last 2 laps, a little bit damp, and you could see with the drivers struggling at the exit of the bus stop chicane, or the old bus stop chicane, that it was really struggling to get the power down there. But Ryder Dahl holding firm and holding strong.
Yeah, it really was down to, I think, the race was pretty much decided when Francesco Largo had a poor exit out of the bus stop chicane heading onto the final lap, and that's just... It's one of those tiny little mistakes that can cost you an entire race, and he will be absolutely devastated because he certainly had the pace to win that race. But Ryder Dahl just had that dominance, and I think it was a deserved victory in the end for the ET8 man, where he led the majority of the race. He led the middle part of the race, and he dealt with the pressure well and managed to make it to the end successfully.
Yeah, well done to Ryder Dahl. Driver of the day for yourself. Who do you think's the driver to to watch out for today? The main one.
I think it's very, very difficult to make a decision on that one, just because there were so many good drivers. I mean, obviously, the obvious answer is to give it to Ryderdal because he won. He led in a very, very good position for a very, very long time. But I'll give it to Carsey for his first points, of course.
Fair enough. I think that's a very, very solid positional point to give that. So that is Belgium done and dusted. That's round 3. So next up, we've got the United States Grand Prix. The only American track that we've got on the circuit for season 21. And my goodness me, well, if the end of this one is anything to go by, we're going to have a special stateside Grand Prix. And we can't hear you, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a very, very good race. At the end of it, I was on mute. That's the first time I've done that, I think. This race, I've done it plenty of times.
This season, I'm gonna say this season, that's the first time.
Is it? Oh, it's not the last. But yeah, I think very, very good race. And, excited for the next one.
It certainly is. But there we have it. It doesn't look like we're having anyone in the waiting room for this week. So no podium questions, I am afraid. But there, 3 rounds completed and 7 more to go. They're the United States, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Great Britain, Emilia-Romagna, the Japanese, and ending at Abu Dhabi in October. But for now, from Joseph and myself, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you stick around for all the WOR action. It's been great having you with us. But for now, take care and goodbye.